G'day, welcome back to the channel. We're back at Wangara for another crit race. We have some race footage here from my GoPro 7 that's mounted on the front of the handlebars. We're racing B grade today and I've started off around mid-pack. I think it will just settle into the race, and this is a bit of an incline coming up through the first corner into the second corner. And if you look up to the front, you can see the race is already on. So it's strung out already, single file. We're coming up onto the back straight here. We've got a crosswind left to right here, and I'm just sitting in behind. I've got a teammate here in front of me, so we're just coming down the back straight, and straight from the start of this race it is strung out and they're pushing the pace pretty high at the front of the race. So we're going to come into a chicane coming up here, and you can see just to the left we turn left and right, and I can already see that a gap's opened up here. And there was a race that I did here a year ago where a gap opened up like that, and then we never got it back, and I thought, we've got to jump to this, pull it back. So I jumped pretty hard. I had a few on my wheel, just to be able to make up and get back to the front of this race before it's gone and a major split occurs on the first lap of the race. But it slowed up a little bit, and we were able to get back onto the back of that train. So here we've got some footage from this is only the second lap. Got a teammate here, Phil. He's moving up to the front. So I didn't want to get caught out of position, so I've moved to the front of the race. I think we've got around 35 or maybe 40 riders in this race. So Phil, this is only the second lap, he pushes off the front and he's trying to establish a break. Our plan maybe was to get a couple into a break at a point here, so I'm just wondering, okay, well, should I go or should I just wait and see what happens, see if anyone jumps across? And then on the right, my teammate Brendan, he jumps across to Phil. And then we have another, I think there might be Lee Jordan or another rider jump across to that. And so that break ended up staying for a couple of laps, and so we had a number of riders that jumped into that break with Brendan and Phil, so they were working pretty hard. There goes, I think the winner of the race there, he jumped across into that break, so they had around 4 or 5 riders in that break for a good couple of laps. I think maybe 3, 4 or 5 laps. They were working pretty hard in that break. So we're coming through the first corner. The brake's still established. You can see them up there on the right, and this is some footage of the peloton chasing around a lap or two later, chasing to get that brake back. So just riding wheels. Brendan and Phil are in that break, so they're working pretty hard. So my plan was just to sit in until potentially that brake gets pulled back, and if the brake gets pulled back, then obviously I've got to try to establish a brake next. So we're coming up onto the back straight. You can see just in front how far they've got, and now we've got some footage coming back onto the home straight, and the brake is close, so everybody's trying to jump across to it and scramble, and then it starts kicking again. So you can see the sort of splits going on up the front there on the left. On the right there, my teammate Matt senses a potential split going on, so he jumps. Again, I'm caught out of position, and we're about 15 minutes into the race, and again I can see a split occurring, and I think I've got to move to get into that split. So there's around 10 to 15 riders in that front group, and if they manage to stay off and start rolling turns, we're not going to be able to get that back. So you can see the split occurring there. So I'm just seeing if we've got to pull that gap back, and Pat there just pulls off he doesn't want to close that gap, so I'm going to just jump across and try to close that gap. But we managed to get onto the back of this train, and then again it kicks again. So that's twice I've probably been caught out of position. As you see how many riders are in that train there. That's twice I've been caught out of position. So one of the key things is try to stay within the top 10 or 15 riders. So most of my teammates are here. We're all up in the front. We're in the blue kit there, number 68. We've got Brendan and Phil, a couple of other mates up there riding as well. So it was about this time. So Brendan and Phil had been on that break. They'd worked pretty hard. And another break starts to establish here. So I see Josh just there in the Valific kit. He's starting to kick down. I'm not too sure if there's anyone that's gone off the front, but I see him kick. And then as I look out to the right, I see that there is a bit of a break going off the front. So my teammates, Brendan and Phil, are there. So then I jump into this. So we head around. I make it across to this break. And then we start probably around 3 or 4 laps that this break was established. We also had Tim Hopkins who'd come up with me, so he managed to jump across into this break as well. So in terms of teams represented in this break, it's always fun racing with teams. So we've got Oasis Timber Flooring represented. We've got the Mighty King Kong Race Machine, awesome name. Obviously myself with Giant Perth. We've got Valifit Racing, who's just in front here with Josh. We've got Verus Masters and Chaotic Energy with Tim Hopkins, Giant Ocean Keys. So number of teams represented in this break. So it made for good racing. But there were some teams that weren't represented in this break, and obviously they were keen to be able to pull this back. We have some footage here of being back into the peloton. This part is downhill and it's into a headwind. So yeah, it's a pretty challenging part. Although you're going downhill, you are heading into the headwind. So we had around 40 or so riders in this race today. So it's a pretty big field. 40, 41. I think A grade had around 10 riders in it. So I think today we'd average something like 40k an hour for this race, which is a pretty good pace, considering the headwind, and there's an incline section that we've got along the finishing straight, which is pretty challenging. You've got to keep the power on for the whole part of through corner 1 and 2. So we're around 10 minutes to go, and you can see an attack's gone off to the right there. That's Lee Jordan. So I think the Oasis Timber Flooring team, they were pretty active and they attacked a number of times. So 2 of them went off the front there. They probably had a couple of laps that they're off the front. And here's some footage coming across the home straight. Actually, this is the final lap. I think we're coming into the final lap here. And we are just sitting behind my teammate here, Phil. He's number 74. So we reconnected, and for the last 4 laps we stayed together. And so there's 4 riders in front of us. We're coming up to the second corner, and as we come through this corner, a car comes right through the right, so it just misses the stop sign, and this sort of, you can see everyone's on the left ends up getting caught. Phil's on the front here. As I said, we've got a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go. He's tapping the arse saying, "Get on the wheel," and he's just going to drill it. He's an absolute powerhouse. So we've got Phil there. I'm sitting second wheel, and Brendan is behind me because I can hear him yelling, "Let's go." So we come through left, right, and generally on this race, on this last part of the course here, it starts to fan out, and that's because no one wants to be on the front. But Phil just buries himself here, and we've got this race strung out at the back, and the plan was to have 3 or 4 of us in the race just to get on the front and try to bring it so at least our third wheel or fourth wheel can have a shot at podium. So Phil flicks. I've basically got nothing left here. We're coming into the last home straight. I start to get up and kick. I know I've got Brendan behind me and see how far I can go. And then I feel Brendan come past. There he is on the right. And basically done the job. Brendan ended up 4th. Unfortunately, we didn't get on podium, but it's still a tough race, good race. And we were trying to get on the front and see if we could get a lead-out train going. So as always, please like the video, please subscribe if you like the content, keep you motivated to making these racing videos, and until our next race, we'll see you then.